You cannot manage change. Change manages you. We can navigate the transition of change. We can learn to emotionally cope with change. The people that are introducing the change are usually more comfortable with it. But change removes your foundation of familiarity and certainty and takes you out of adult and puts you straight into child. And it is unfair of any of us, any human being, to communicate with someone and put them into child. I have to level up my communication the same way we heard level up your leadership and level up your organization and do all these things. I have to be the one to drive this interaction. Because if I don't, guess what? They ain't going to do so. And here's the worst thing, and I said it to you earlier, you're going to walk out of here with no more, I don't know why I do this or why they did this. You're going to go, oh gosh, there's my nurturing parent thing again. Oh crap, I did the critical parent thing. Oh damn, I moved into angry child in that. And then watch it from a predictability standpoint. A predictable transaction comes when you speak to that ego state and that ego state response. And if I'm going to start to now manage this stuff and show up in my business world more effective or more effectively, it has a lot to do with me now managing this. So what I want to introduce you to is the first concept that allows us to actually start to get a grip on this whole world of self-awareness and consciousness. In fact, if I watch another social media post with a 22-year-old person talking about mindfulness and consciousness, I might explode because no one actually knows what it means. So the blueprint I'm about to share with you is exactly a blueprint. It will give you a tremendous amount of insight, not just to who you are, but who your spouse is, that you think you might know. Right? And the concept comes from a psychologist. His name was Eric Burns. Canadian, actually, in Montreal. Anyone from Montreal? Good, we don't like them anyway. Oh, no, I'm joking. Right? So from Montreal, and in 1953, he came up with this concept and said, our personality is a blueprint. There are three very distinct sides to our personality. And by understanding these three sides, and by understanding how they tick and how they work and when they do and when they don't, I could be far more effective or conscious in my communication. And he named them very easy, or he used a terminology that was very easy to digest. What he described was, he said, our personality is made up of three main categories. We all have something called the parental side to our personality. Now, this is not to describe age or status or marriage or whether you actually have kids, but it's to describe behavior. Right? And if we look at this parental side of our personality that every single person in this room has, regardless of age and status, regardless of whether you're from Montreal or Toronto. By the way, I'm from South Africa, so if you hear me with this weird little accent, I'm mixed. Been here for too long, not really, never was able to break it. But it doesn't matter where you're from and what culture and what generation we are, we all have a parental side to our personality. Now, the other side to our personality is something called the adult, right? This is what we hope other people are. We hope the people we engage with, the people we communicate with, our spouses, our team members, our clients, are adults that operate with rational thought. But here's where this all goes wrong, was when I'm not an adult, but when I'm in child. The third side to our personality is something called child. And again, these are not names to put you down. These are not names to make fun of you. These are names to describe behavior. Right? What is the parental behavior you might demonstrate? Discipline, absolutely. Authoritative behavior. And the opposite to the discipline would be praise or love. There's a really interesting concept that says when we meet our significant other, we are meeting the other half of our circle. Right? So high, impulsive, energetic, outgoing, social, extroverted, can't pay attention, can't focus, like a bouncy ball, meets organized, mature, sophisticated, intelligent, calm, beautiful. So here's where I'm going with this. When these two met, they demonstrated a certain side of their personality, right? And all of a sudden, what we fell in love with and what we were attracted to was the opposite to who we were. Child met parent, parent met child. We fulfilled each other's lives. And as we begin to communicate, It is that exact difference that allows us to connect and to show up in that relationship. But as we're continuing, what we end up falling in love with is what we end up resenting. So the exact thing that got us into the relationship is the exact thing that creates what is called the power struggle. Now, the more we understand about ourselves, the more we understand this world of psychology and self-awareness and insights, the more effective we can be in navigating these relationships. Because what's the difference between when you two do it well versus when you don't do it well? When you are managing your shit and you're saying, it's not her, it's me. It is my personality. It is my communication style. It is my emotional hook. It is my delivery that is definitely impacting the outcome that I'm trying to achieve. The problem is as human beings, we like to blame. It's not me, it's them, right? It's not my leadership, it's the team member. It's not the fact that it's the change, it's the fact they can't cope with the change. And what we got to understand is at the end of the day, we have more control of ourselves. The exact thing we're talking about marriage here is the exact same dynamic in relationship that we have with business as entrepreneurs. And here's a really great saying. You want to know what tomorrow is going to look like? Look at what yesterday did. The more time we spend going inside, the more time we spend with ourselves, the more time we spend being reflective and introspective and self-aware, the more effective I can show up tomorrow. And here's a really great saying. You want to know what tomorrow is going to look like? Look at what yesterday did. You want to know what your relationships and your leadership and all this stuff is going to look like tomorrow? Look at it yesterday. Because that same behavior transpires or carries through. How am I communicating in the boardroom? How am I communicating with staff? How am I communicating with my peers? How am I communicating at home? How am I communicating with my kids? And communication is freaking hard. None of us learned this. You know what we learned from my father? How to scream, how to yell, how to threaten. I learned from my mother how to avoid. And it's not because any of them went, oh, we're going to teach this kid how to do so. They just communicated. And they just operated. And like a little sponge, I watched people do this. And then later on, I grew up and I started doing that. There is an effective way to communicate, and there is structure to this stuff. There's a framework. And if all fails, shut up. That's it. Just shut up.